Lost in Time, Episode 3, Hitler and World War I. Adolf Hitler was born in Austria-Hungary, but from a young age, he never felt Austrian. By 1913, at age 24, Hitler was a drifter. He had failed twice to enter the Academy of Fine Arts in Vienna, sold postcards to survive, and lived in homeless shelters and men's hostels. But more importantly, he had grown disillusioned with Austria. He hated its ethnic diversity, its imperial bureaucracy, and what he saw as a lack of true Germanness. To him, the future of the German-speaking people lay not with Vienna, but with Berlin. In May 1913, Hitler quietly left Austria for Munich, Germany. Technically, he was evading mandatory Austrian military service. He had no desire to fight for a multi-ethnic empire he didn't believe in. In Munich, Hitler immersed himself in reading, especially German nationalist books, war history, and racial ideology. He was already obsessed with the idea of German unity, anti-Semitism, and national rebirth, but he was still an anonymous foreigner. Then in 1914, everything changed. On June 28, 1914, Archduke Franz Ferdinand was assassinated.
It has been announced that Archduke Franz Ferdinand of Austria-Hungary and his wife Sophie have been assassinated. Gavrilo Princip shot them both at close range whilst by the Latin Bridge in Sarajevo.
By early August, Europe was at war, and to Adolf Hitler, it was a revelation. He later wrote in Mein Kampf, "I fell down on my knees and thanked heaven from an overflowing heart." For Hitler, war was not horror, it was salvation. A chance for him to prove himself and fight for the Germany he idolized. He immediately volunteered for the German army and was accepted into the 16th Bavarian Reserve Infantry Regiment. It's important to understand, this wasn't a patriotic act for Austria. It was a personal mission. Hitler had found a cause, an identity, and a home in Germany's army. Private Adolf Hitler's wartime service began in the autumn of 1914. His regiment was sent to Belgium, where they saw their first action during the First Battle of Ypres. It was one of the bloodiest battles of the early war. Hitler's unit lost over 2,500 of its 3,000 men. But Hitler survived, and something inside him seemed to thrive. He was assigned as a regimental dispatch runner, a dangerous and vital role. His job was to carry orders between the front lines and command posts, often crossing open terrain under enemy fire. Unlike front-line infantrymen who rotated in and out of battle, Hitler's role gave him consistent exposure to danger, but also moments of relative calm behind the lines. He lived on adrenaline. He was proud of his uniform, and unlike many soldiers who grew cynical and war-weary, Hitler grew more nationalistic and fanatical as the war went on. He wrote home obsessively, and while many letters have been lost, the surviving ones reveal a man obsessed with German honor and victory. In them, he rarely mentions close friendships or emotions, just duty, struggle, and destiny. His commanders noted his discipline and commitment. He didn't drink, didn't smoke, didn't chase women. He avoided the common soldier's pastimes, instead spending time sketching, painting, or ranting about politics. Hitler served in many major battles: the Second Battle of Ypres, the Somme, Arras, and Passchendaele. These weren't just ordinary combat zones. They were meat grinders, with tens of thousands killed in single weeks. In 1916, he was wounded in the leg by a shell explosion and hospitalized. He returned to service months later, more hardened than ever. In 1917, as revolution spread through Russia and the Western Front stagnated in mud and death, Hitler's belief in the survival of the fittest, politically and racially, deepened. He embraced the idea that war was a purifying force, that weakness in Germany had to be destroyed, internally and externally. Hitler received the Iron Cross Second Class in 1914. But more notably, he was awarded the Iron Cross First Class in 1918, an honor rarely given to soldiers of his low rank. That medal, pinned to his chest by a Jewish officer named Hugo Gutmann, became one of Hitler's most prized possessions. A bitter irony in the years to come. In October 1918, near Ypres, Hitler's war took a final, violent turn. A British gas attack blanketed the area in mustard gas. Hitler, along with dozens of others, was temporarily blinded and evacuated. He was sent to a military hospital in Pasewalk in northeast Germany. It was here, while lying helpless in bed, that Adolf Hitler received the news. Germany had surrendered. For most Germans, the end of the war was devastating, but expected. The country was starving, the military exhausted, the empire crumbling. But for Hitler, it was more than defeat. It was betrayal. He claimed the moment left him in spiritual collapse. He wept. He raged. And when he recovered, he wasn't the same man. He began to embrace what would become his lifelong mantra, that Germany had been stabbed in the back, not by the Allies, but by internal enemies. Jews, Marxists, liberals. The Treaty of Versailles in 1919 only deepened the wound. The treaty blamed Germany for the war, dismantled its military, and demanded crippling reparations. For Hitler, this humiliation confirmed everything he believed about weakness and treason. The soldier who had entered the war as a nobody returned from it with a purpose: vengeance. He would not go back to painting. He would not retreat to obscurity. He would fight to reverse the outcome of World War I by any means necessary.